The following is part 2 of a 2-part archived interview regarding sex offenders and everything we may not know about the system that persecutes them. This interview contains actual commentary from registered sex offenders whom are being detained at a California mental institution awaiting trial for non-sexual violations. This interview was aired on December 6, 2011 on KFCF 88.1 FM, Free Speech Radio for Central California. For more information, please visit kfcf.org.
Well, I tell you, this is a great conversation to talk about the treatment. I also want to introduce our listeners to the other side of the spectrum, the people who fall victim to sex offender laws who aren't necessarily sexually deviant. And as it turns out, the laws which were put into place for the protection of our society have also impacted many who are not necessarily predators. There are many people donning the title of registered sex offender whose crimes haven't necessarily involved any of the behaviors that we just mentioned. And so we tonight are going to bring you some callers directly from Coalinga State Hospital who are going to share with us in 2 minutes or less their stories about why they feel as though they are not, they should not be there, or what their situation is. And so I believe we have a caller on hold now from the hospital. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, my name is Cornell Clemens. I am housed at Coalinga State Hospital illegally. I have a attempt rape, and I've been up under this Jessica law since 2006. Since 2006, and not just me, many more of my peers also is illegally, and I searched the word illegally here. Yes, you can. Illegally here in this hospital of Coalinga State Hospital. They are, it's a money-wasting business where they got us housed here, and we do not show current signs and symptoms of a person that suffer from a sexual mental disorder. But yet and still, 2 doctors falsified documents just to have us put here. And our lawyers is friends of the courts. They roll in with the courts to keep us here to ride with what the doctor is saying when me nor my peers suffer from no current signs or symptoms with a person with sexual mental disorder, such as I with a attempt rape and no long string history of a sexual predator, which I was in the community, and you can see this whole law is based on or me and my peers a threat to the community. And I was in the community and called 4 or 5 violations that had nothing to do with sex.
So are you saying that you should actually be in a state prison for your actions as opposed to being in a mental facility? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, first of all, no, I am not saying that I should be in a state prison, because I stayed in prison from 1992 to 2002 for a attempt rape. And I got out from 2002 and called 4 or 5 violations from 02 to 06. I called 4 or 5 violations, and when the Jessica law kicked in 06, November the 7th, 06, then that's when they threw me up under this mental cycle, up under the umbrella of DMH, saying that I suffer from a sexual mental disorder when I show no current signs and symptoms of a person that's suffering from a sexual mental disorder. Don't take mental medications. I'm responsible for what I do and say.
So the only
type... It's wrong with me psychologically.
So the only offense you had sexually, from what I'm understanding, is just an attempted rape.
Absolutely, and you can get that from Dr. Jean Kennedy herself, because I mailed it to her. That's right. That's all I have is a attempt rape.
Mm-hmm. All other charges that you may have were ever anything sexual other than an attempted rape.
That's right. Burglary, petty theft, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr.
May I ask a question?
Somebody want to talk to you. And thank you to Merry Christmas to you and yours. Thank you, Dr. Gene Kennedy, 88.1 FM. It's a great radio station to our state of California.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Dr. Colon, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. And I wanted to ask him a question, but he got off, I understand.
Oh, yes.
He did say that he was in the state prison from 1990-something to 2002 for an attempt rape.
Right. So he did his state time.
Okay.
From what we were understanding. Then he was released. He picked up, was it 4 different violations, 4 separate types of violations. He did things that were wrong against his parole.
But nothing to do with a sex offense.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because he had already done that time, for the attempted rape. Then he got out. He was released. He was on parole. During his parole, he picked up 4 different violations, non-sexual in nature. Then the law changed, and because of the change in the law and his attempted sexual assault put him under the guidelines of him being where he is now.
Yeah, that's an unusual case.
Actually, it's not as unusual as you may think. There are a lot more people in our Kalinga State Hospital that fall within those same guidelines.
Yeah, well, I've worked with individuals that are, considered registered, that they have to register as sex offenders, and I really do not believe that they fit the criteria for sex offender.
Right.
So, there are those out there. But my question was going to be for him, because I work for the prison system, and I know that when the only way that I know of that they could transfer them from the prison to Kalinga while on a violation, even for petty theft, is that they have these contract psychologists that come in to do assessments on them prior to their leaving, and if they feel that they're a danger to society, then they could recommend that they be transferred to Kalinga.
Correct, but if you heard him say that those types of assessments were falsified, his words.
Right. But that was what happened with him. In other words, he was in the prison when they assessed him and then transferred him to Kalinga, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a lot of that.
But as he mentioned, this is a money society, and we've talked about this before. They had empty beds, and they needed to fill them.
Yes.
I believe that we have another caller on the line from the hospital. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
All right. Tell us your story in 2 minutes.
Okay, what I don't understand is this. The California audit report, Sunday report out, and in that audit report, they clearly state in there that the Department of Corrections did not follow the law. Under any law that would deal with criminal, for the issue of them not developing a structure screening instrument, which was the only instrument that could put us in here based on the fact that it would show that we had a diagnosed mental disorder, the Department of Mental Health never developed it. And by them never developing it, we were all placed in here based on a crime. It was a pick and choose things between the Department of Mental Health and CDC. But no one is looking at the actual law of it, because if they did, we all were violated, our due process rights was violated. When we were in the Department of Corrections, they held the hearings without us knowing anything, the screening process without us knowing anything, so we couldn't appeal it to challenge the actual issue of a structure screening instrument, whether or not if the crime was predatory or whether it was a predatory nature. So we stuck in here basically. Right now I'm in the court. The court is refusing to even allow me a hearing to address the issue that the Department of Mental Health never developed a structure screening instrument. This is the law that we're under, and they have denied us our constitutional rights. I mean, they even have denied us our day in court. It's people here that's been here for 10 years, without going to court. Under any society, you would be to went to court by now. Under any society, especially the one we're under, we would have a right to file a habeas corpus. What they will do is reject us when we file stuff into certain courts talking about we have counsel. How can you have counsel when they would not address the issue? And the issue is, and get the California audit report dealing with this, what it will show you that CDC did not follow the law, nor did DMH develop a structure screening instrument. That's the only tool that could show that we were likely to be SVPs. Without it, we're in here based on our crime.
Thank you.
If you look at Kansas versus Crane, it says they cannot lock you up just solely based on a crime. It has to be proven that you have a diagnosed mental disorder or the likelihood of one.
Which is what they have you in there for. That's what they have on paper. They have on paper that you committed this sexual offense. It's under their guideline. They have these papers that say that you were assessed. It's under their guideline, whether they be honest and true and straightforward or they be falsified, however you want to look at it, because it affects you personally. But then they also have where the guidelines are that you have these 4 phases that you have to go through, however long it takes you to go from phase 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and these individuals that refuse to do any of these phases, to follow the rules of the state hospital, they are the ones that are in there more so.
Could I ask you a question? Could I ask you this question?
Sure.
Have you read the California audit report?
I have read some of the audit report. Unfortunately, I have not read it all. It is quite lengthy.
Okay. Well, the California audit report states that the Department of Corrections did not follow the law. If they didn't follow the law, mandated law, then our due process and equal protection rights were violated.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Caller, we're going to clear up the line for other callers, but thank you very much, and this will spark a great discussion. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Angela, are you still on the line?
It's so unfortunate, but he's saying the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's really unfortunate. And what's with these individuals, okay, some like the first one said that he had an attempted rape or whatever, but you have individuals that have gone out with they're 20 and they've gone out with girls that are 14 but have showed them fake IDs and had consensual sex, and now they're registered sex offenders for the rest of their life because for one reason or another, either the guy didn't want to go out with the girl again, or he found out she was young and he got scared for whatever reason. Then the girl cries rape, and now he's a sex offender.
There's a lot of that happening in prisons. I see that a lot of times. I hear men talk about it all the time too.
Yeah, and it's really sad because I'm not saying it's wrong, but it has to at least be looked at.
Yes.
I have something here from doc.wa.gov, and it says that offenders, including those who pose a greater risk of harm to the community, cannot be held in confinement after they have served their court-ordered sentence for a criminal offense. But civil commitment laws allow a judge or a jury to determine whether a sex offender who appears to meet the definition of sexually violent predators should be released to the community following their confinement period, or whether they should be placed in a secure DSHS-operated facility for control, care, and treatment. So you're basically saying that anyone can, who's on the jury or a judge, can then decide for whether or not they're allowed to go back
to their discretion. Yes.
And without a face-to-face hearing with the offender, without a questionnaire from the offender, it's completely, the decision is not within their rights to communicate.
Right.
It is not within their rights to participate in the decision. That decision is totally away from them completely.
It's unfortunate. And then you have real criminals, real rapists and all that that'll serve time in prison and get out and and continue to do it. But then you have these few that are transferred from the prison to Kalinga, and if they make it into Kalinga, I feel bad because that's it. You don't know when they're going to come out.
You have all these violent offenders that commit multiple murders that go and they go before the parole board, giving their side of what they've done, how they consider themselves changed, how they consider themselves to be safe for the society, and so they have participation in the decision, in that they're able to say their share. And where it comes to the sex offenders, they have no participation, they have no input.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately what happens is that, like Dr. Kennedy was saying before, that there are those that are so angry at the system that will not participate.
Right.
And unfortunately, they're digging themselves a bigger hole because those are going to be there, forget it.
Yeah.
So they have to, I hope they're listening, if they feel that they're there illegally, at least follow the protocol, follow the the 4 phases, and get out.
We have another caller, James, and he is not in the prison. He's on parole right now.
Okay.
So, James, please tell us a bit of your story if you can.
Great.
I'll just explain part of the process. I've been in prison. I was released. I went back on a violation. I went back on a violation after Jessica's Law passed, and I had to go through the assessment. And I spoke to the psychologist doing the assessment, and she explained to me that the number one thing they look for is remorse. Now, if somebody doesn't show any sign of remorse, such as somebody that was falsely accused and doesn't want to express remorse for something they feel they didn't do, then that sends up a lot of red flags for them. And so that becomes a problem for them because they don't want to release somebody into society that they feel doesn't feel bad for what they did. So they feel responsible to send that person, over to Kalinga until they can work with that person and until that person shows that sign of remorse.
That's so true. James is your name?
Yes. I
Yes,
believe that's what he said.
that is so true, and it's very unfortunate, but that's
Are you
something
there?
that they do look for.
That is a big problem. Once you're out on parole, too, parole now requires you to go through relapse prevention. They require a whole slew of different classes you have to take, domestic violence classes that all deal with that. And the number one thing that they try to get out of you is a sign of remorse, because if you do not show that, if you do, even if you've been falsely accused, it's in the parolee's best interest just to lie and say he's sorry about it.
That's just like taking
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, that's just like taking a plea deal.
Yeah, and that's the same thing they want you
bargain.
to do when you go up before the parole board.
Right.
It's the same thing they want you to do when you go before a parole board and you're trying to ask to be released after X amount of years. They want you to say what you did, take responsibility for your actions, and show the remorse.
Yes, I was going to say that. That's I was saying that is so true because I see it, with my lifers. They didn't commit the crime. I read the C-file. That's where all the details are. And they didn't commit the crime, but when they go to the Board of Parole hearings, the commissioners and the deputies, they want to hear that they committed the crime, that they have remorse for the crime that they committed, and that they have insight. But how could you have remorse or insight for a crime that you did not commit?
The catch-22, huh?
Yeah.
There we go.
Catch-22. So what I taught one of my inmates that's going to the board soon, and he finally was able to accept it, is, okay, at least let them know that you didn't commit it, but you could understand and empathize with what the family of the victim went through.
Right.
Or is going through. Like, in other words, you were there, you didn't participate, but you were there. You didn't do anything to help that individual. So at least, show remorse and insight from that perspective.
Just a final thought to those guys that are in Kalinga. I hate to say it, but, even if you didn't do it, just tell them you did. That's the only way you're going to get out of there. Yeah, it sucks, but that's just the way our system's set up, and they don't tend to look at us as individuals. They tend to group us all together. They don't really like to look at the details of all the cases because of the thousands and thousands of cases they have to deal with, and it's a sad thing, but, I've got 8 months left on parole. I've been doing it for over almost 7 years now, and
congratulations.
That's the process I've had to go through. Is as soon as I walk through the door of any one of these classes, I just lay out the story, and I confess to everything that I didn't do as well, and I just go with the flow, and I hate that because that's not really part of my personality, but I've just learned that you got to go with the flow, otherwise it's going to be a lot more difficult.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a great.
But that's very hard, though. It's very hard for someone. Thank you very much, James, for calling in.
No
But
problem.
you know what? It is so hard for a person who that was not their crime.
John, we have a John from Kalinga. He says he's very disturbed by what he hears. John, can you tell us a little bit of your story?
My issue is I really don't think y'all know what this place is about. There's an individual that just went all the way through the phases. He was recommended for release at this place by all the psychiatrists and the Department of Mental Health. and the judge refused to let him go. There is nothing fair in this place, number one. Number two, you don't have qualified any form of structure here to even run these programs. This place needs to be audited. They need to have people, sincere people, coming in here looking at the programs, the people that is running them. They worry more about cheers in here than they do about their program. I mean, it's like, for a person on the street, I can understand y'all having a misconception. You know, the bottom line to it is this place is a sham. It's a place to build the economy here. This is a sham. No one wants to touch this place because they don't like the aspect that people have sexual crimes. But the bottom line to it is that this place is a sham. The people that have got out from the phases have made deals with the district attorney's office and the evaluators. If they give them a year, they will flip on them. That's how they're getting out through the phases. They're not getting out through the phases because they do the whole program. The evaluators, after they did 8 or 9 years, say, give me a year in phases and we will flip. It is a deal process that they went through in here. So people have a misconception. They're not getting out of the phases. The people that have the real problems in the phases has been there for 10 years, 9 years. And the people out there know nothing about it. But the people that have got out, that went to the phases, they have gotten out because they made a deal with the prosecution and the evaluators to flip on them so they can go.
And explain what flip means, so that, because I want my listening audience to understand everything that's going on. What is he saying when he says flip?
From what I'm understanding is that they talk to the district attorney. The district attorney says, you give me this amount of time to show me that you're going to do good, do a year in this phase, that phase, that phase, and at the end of that time, we will let you out. That's the deal that I'm understanding that he's saying. That way they can be that
poster child.
Thank you.
Child,
so that they can be that poster child for, see how good we are, see we do have success stories.
You know, we've come up pretty close to our time. Angela, I want to give you about 2 minutes to kind of share what what we've been doing tonight. What can you give us?
I hope that the public that is listening, really sees the two sides of the coin. Because, like I said before, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to get involved. One of the problems that we have is that nobody wants to work with sex offenders, And like we said before, the judge that is denying this guy, nobody wants to put their signature on a release and saying, he's good to go. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to take that chance. But what I really want that the public to at least get out of this is that, yes, we do have bad sex offenders, that need to get treatment and need to be locked up, but that there are a lot of innocent people that are also locked up under this new law, and that it's really unfair. And just because they committed some sex offense, whether it was, with a minor that showed a fake ID or whatever it may be, that we need to listen, that we need to see both sides of the story, that not immediately do we condemn them.
And I would like to add to this, what we're seeing in the news now and about these coaches and stuff like this, it comes down to our responsibility, too, to protect the kids. So let's not forget that. It's our
No, and we can't. We can't forget that, but again, that's the problem, though, that it seems like everyone goes to the extreme. We're either going to protect the children and just blind ourselves to everything else that's going on. Why can't we, why can't we have a happy medium? Why can't we protect the children and at the same time not let, these situations go on?
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
After this show aired, some of the listeners being detained at Kalinga State Hospital were dissatisfied with the word choices that one of our radio team members used to portray their situation. A few of them decided to leave post-radio show voicemails to express their frustration and give a better explanation of their circumstances.
I enjoyed your show last night, and yes, I was listening. I did hear the whole program. I have some information for you to better facilitate what the people, the general public, is listening to. So I'll be very brief, very brief. There are about 950 patients here at the Kalinga State Hospital, Dr. Kennedy, but only 530 of them are committed, meaning that they've already been in a trial, and a jury of 12 have decided that they do need treatment and should be detained until they are deemed to be, cured, so to speak. However, the remaining 400 or so are non-committed. We are waiting for trial. That includes me. We're waiting for trial. But the problem is that it takes so long to get the trial, Dr. Kennedy. I've been here for 5 years now. And so a lot of people have been here longer than me, but I've been here for 5 years, still waiting to go to trial. This is what takes so long. The law states that you do not have to participate in any treatment while you're waiting for trial, because only if you're committed are you requested or required to participate. So the law states that you would just be transferred to a secure facility pending trial. That's what this says in the law. So you don't have to participate unless you're committed. So the 400 people or so that are here, including myself, are just waiting for trial. Because what's the purpose of going to treatment when it hasn't been decided whether or not you are a SBP, which is a very awful term. But you would be putting the cart in front of the horse if you go to treatment and then go to trial and find out that the jury says, oh, you don't need to be housed in a secure facility. You're free to be in the community. See, it's backwards. But the lawyers, to occupy our time and to nail the nail in the coffin, they tell us to go to treatment because it looks better for the jury. But in actuality, the jury feels that since you're already in treatment, then just go ahead and finish the treatment. See? So if a person participates and not committed, he's more likely to get committed so that he can finish the treatment. See? This is why it's a catch-22 to that. See? People don't understand where the rubber meets the road on this issue. It's technical. The other issue is that about 160 people got out going to trial, just taking the gamble going to trial, and they won. But Dr. Kinney, only 15 people have got out going to the treatment program. That's about one per year since the law started in 1996. So with those odds, the average person would just take their chances. I'll take my chance in front of the jury without treatment at all because I'm saying there's nothing wrong with me, rather than go to treatment and then go in front of the jury and the prosecutor is going to say, well, he's already in treatment. He admitted that he has a problem, because you have to sign papers when you participate. Whenever you go to treatment, you have to sign papers that you need help. This is what it says, in other words. I don't have one of those papers, but I sure would like to get a hold of one of those. You got to sign some document stating that you have a problem and you need help. They use that against you when you go to court. So anyway, let's see. Dr. Kinney, there's about 10,000 sex offenders on parole right now, and I guarantee you the majority of them are young, affiliated, or extremely violent. You can see this is something you can check out on your own. I don't have the capabilities of checking into this, but you can. You're in the free world. They have about 7,000 of them on the ankle monitors. So that means that they're at risk to reoffend too. But if you check the backgrounds of these 10,000 or so sex offenders that are on parole, that means that they just got out of prison, at least within the last 3-4 years, because parole generally lasts 3. I think they raised it to 5 years. But let's just say 3. An individual that's on parole right now, it has at least been on parole for the last 3 years. So that means that they got out of prison recently within the last 3 years. Of these 10,000 people, sex offenders, I will bet you that well over 2/3 of them are under the age of 25. They are affiliated with some kind of gang. This is all the races, all races. Sex offenders come in all races. They are affiliated with some kind of gang, or they have a lot of violence in their past. It's one of those three combinations. Because they won't bring those kind of individuals in the hospital, Dr. Kennedy. I've told you this on many occasions. This is no accident that they have picked these old men to say that they're too dangerous. Because these guys that are on the street on parole right now have hideous cases, which can be, this is something that's factual. This can be checked into. These guys that are running around on the streets, and you said it last night, you got all these people running around, and we're supposed to be the worst of the worst. See? But no one has never checked into the fact that what about the guys who said that the doctors say are sexually violent predators and then got out and reoffended? No one has never did no study on that, because that would show that this law is bullshit. And I don't, excuse me for saying that. Excuse me for the use of that word. But if they showed that, they would show that, well, hey, if the evaluators are saying that these guys need to be here as sexually violent predators, and then they get out and they don't reoffend, then that means the doctors are wrong. See, no one wants to focus on what the real issue is. No one is willing to do an investigation on that, because they don't want to seem like they're siding with the sex offender. But right is right. I'm an American citizen like everyone else, and I've done my time. And that's another thing that you need to let the public know. We've all served our time. Even if you get a parole violation, you still done your time. You're just on parole for 3-4 years till you get off parole. But all of us have finished our prison sentence. The law that passed back in 1999 gave permission for them to hold a sex offender, even though he has done his time already, based on a mental disorder. This is why we're here. But the doctors are lying. Maybe there's like 3% of the people really do have a problem. But the economy wouldn't support 3%. The recidivism rate of a sex offender is only 3 to 5%, Dr. Kennedy. That's a fact. That means out of 100 sex offenders, only 3 are going to reoffend. It's so low. It's extremely low. And so it doesn't justify this population here. But see, no one wants to talk about the real numbers. They want to just talk about, oh, you did this and you need help, and make sure he doesn't get out so he won't do that again. They're misguided. 500 to 700 sex offenders get out every month, Dr. Kennedy, from prison. They don't talk. No one discusses that. There's 25,000 sex offenders in CDC right now in the prison system right now. 500 to 700 of them parole to the community every month, but no one talks about that. Now, this is what the real stuff. This is the real. This is, Dr. Kennedy, keeping it real. These are real factual numbers. So you need to get an expert on this area, on the statistics. Put the real numbers out there. Sex offenders do not come back to prison for another sex offender at 87% is the number I heard. It's only 3 to 5% on recidivism on them coming back. It's not high. It's extremely low. The news hype out there to make it seem like we're so extremely dangerous and that we're going to run berserk out there. They put that fear.
You have to straighten the record out, Dr. Gene Kennedy, that me and my peers, we are, for one, illegally in this hospital. Illegally. Make sure that word get out there. It's not that we is here pending charges. We're not here pending charges. No, we're not. We're not here pending charges. Get it out there that we are illegally, and I stress that word, we're illegally in this hospital. We did time in prison already. We got out. We was in the community paying taxes, raising our families, providing for the family, doing everything that any normal, productive man would do for his family or either for himself. He was out there in the community maintaining. And then when the Jessica law kicked in, people that had sex convictions, they was on parole, they got scooped up and thrown in this place. We're not here pending charges. Don't say that. Don't say that, Gene Kennedy, because you'll be misleading the public peoples. In their eyes, we're here waiting charges, but that's not the truth. The truth is we do not supposed to be here. We did time in prison already. Use my circumstance, my situation as a poster child. Don't lead the peoples in the mindset of that we here pending a charge. We're not here pending a charge. That's a lie. When you say, they're pending a charge, no, that's a lie. You're lying to your listeners. We're not here pending a motherfucking charge. We're not here for that. We're illegally here. So don't tell your listeners, hey, they there pending the charge. We ain't here pending the charge, Dr. Gene Kennedy. We ain't here pending the charges. We're not here pending no charges. We are illegally here. We did time in prison already. We was in the community. Some of us was on parole, like myself and others. Me and my peers, is already illegally in this hospital. This law is based on is or are me and my peers a threat to the community. And no, Mr. Cornell Clemens is not a threat to the community because he was in the community for a maximum of 20 months from 02 to 06. Dr. Gene Kennedy, this hospital is not holding us pending charges. So let that be known to your listeners or whatever type of article you're going to put out there. Tell them the truth. We're not here pending no charges. That's the bottom line. Because a taxpaying citizen say, well, are they in the hospital waiting to go to court for some charges? We ain't did nothing, Dr. Gene Kennedy. We ain't did anything. We ain't did nothing. We here illegally. Blow it out on your article. Sitting here illegally. Look at this nigga Clemens. You use me as a prime example. Blast out my motherfucking criminal case. It don't matter. Speak the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. If you're going to advocate for us, don't hide nothing, Dr. Gene Kennedy. And use me as a prime example. Don't advocate for us, Dr. Gene Kennedy, and tweak it off. Say, well, they're in the hospital pending charges. We're not pending charges, Dr. Gene Kennedy. We're not. We're here illegally. We ain't pending no more charges. A person that will read that, or a person that see that blood, it's justified. The money is well being spent because they there pending charges, and we're not here pending charges. We did time in prison already. We already did time in prison. Me, a prime example. I sent you my paperwork. From 1992, Dr. Gene Kennedy, to 2002, I stayed in prison for a temp rape. I get out of prison in 2002. From 2002 to 2006, I was pointing on 4 or 5 violations. It had nothing to do with sex. My violation had nothing to do with sex. When 06 kicked in, the Jessica law kicked in, I was on parole. Because I was on parole, I caught a petty theft violation, and it landed me here. And 7 doctors, while I was running out of prison on them violations, 7 doctors from the prison I was paroling from said I was deemed for the community. It showed no dangerousness of me being in the community. 7 doctors said that from the prisons that I was paroling from. It clear. Again, Dr. Gene Kennedy, I must say and stress these words out. I must stress out these words. Me and my peers is not here pending charges. Don't put that out there to your listeners. Don't have your listeners, don't deceive them. Don't have your listeners thinking in the means of, well, damn, that's why they there, because they're pending charges. charges, Dr. Gene Candy. It's been 3 years since you've been dealing with us. Starting off your wingman, which is my closest road dog, Big John Lofton. 3 years of this knowledge of me, him, and a lot of other of our peers that's illegally here. We sent you legal documents. You had your TV show. You have a lot of your life out there is going on. You got your radio show, keeping it real. And since you're keeping it real, then keep it real on this. We're not here pending charges. Keep it real on that. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't tweak off us being here on one hand by saying that everything is copacetic, and then on the other hand, you're tweaking off. On the other hand, you're tweaking off and deceiving people in the means of what you want them to hear. Don't deceive the people. Don't do that. Don't be like that. Nah, don't be like that. Whatever you do, please don't be like that. Nah. Since your radio show consists of keeping it real, according to your own words and according to the way that your whole little protocol and your whole little outlet is laid out in the means of you keeping it real, then since it is so that that's what you're doing, then by all means continue to keep it real by speaking the truth. And the truth is that we're not pending charges in this abnormal, sick, retard environment, illegal environment. We're not pending charges, as you may want individuals to know, or somehow put it out there in the means of trying to deceive the people. And you really shouldn't do that, for that matter. You really shouldn't do that, for that matter. You should see it how it really is. And how it really is that we're not pending charges. We're not pending charges for that matter. Speak the truth on the matter of the situation. It would be appreciated every since you're keeping it real. Ever since you're keeping it real, and then keep it real on the fact of the matter is the truth. Since you're standing up to justice, you're a black woman, you understand, how systematically things operate in the means of legal terms and in the means of justice. It's not like that. This is something new. One more again, I think, Kenny. One more again. Me and my peers is not, and I repeat, we're not pending no charges in this hospital. We're pending no charges in this hospital. Don't deceive the listeners. Don't make it out to them that, well, hey, they in the hospital because they're pending charges. Dr. Dean Kenny, it's been 3 years since you have been talking to us, putting our information over the air. You got knowledge of us being illegally here. You're an educated woman. You're not slow thinker type of woman when it comes to comprehending statements and subjects. You're a long way from being mentally challenged, Dr. King Kenny. It's been 3 years, so you know that we ain't here pending charges. We're not MDOs. They have MDOs here, and somehow, some way, they probably got it in your brain to be like, well, them old is at Kalinga and they're pending charges. But no, that's a separate issue between SCPs and CDC. You got CDC here, but they're under a different act. They're up under MDO SCPs. We ain't MDOs. See, it's a big difference. You know, even though the prisoner is here in the same walk the halls, you know, although we don't mingle with them, we see them, but we don't mingle with them because they're in a different unit. They're in Unit 21. Unit 21 is prisoners, and they are CDC on parole, and they're prisoners. People that's not in 21 is not here pending charges. You know, I don't know where you got that from or who told you that, and without even thinking, you just put it over the airway, oh, they there pending charges. We're not here pending charges. Take a nigga like Cornell Clement, for example. I'm on parole, I'm on probation, I'm not pending no charges at all, none whatsoever, no charges. The only difference between me and you, Dr. J. Kenny, is that you, the only difference.
To replay this message, press 1. To delete, press 7.
This has been part 2 of a 2-part interview regarding sex offenders and everything we may not know about the system that persecutes them. For more information on free speech radio in Central California, visit KFCF.org. This has been a Julius Chatton production.